Welcome to How I Got Here, hosted by seasoned educator Jeremy Proper. This is a podcast of conversations with his former students discussing their journey from middle school to where they are today. Guests highlight their successes and the life lessons learned along the way. And now let's welcome the host, Jeremy Proper.
Welcome to How I Got Here with Mr. Proper. I will be talking to former students who will tell their story of their personal journey from Mr. Proper's class, aka Club 128, to where they are now. Everyone has a different path to get to where they are now, and that path may just be the beginning to where they actually want to be. In these podcasts, I hope to tap into the journeys that my former students have taken, for them to share their experiences with my current students, and for that matter, anyone else who is interested in seeing how hard work in and out of the classroom actually pays off. Let's welcome today's guest, Jazz Rivera. How you doing, Jazz?
Doing great, man. Doing great.
I am so thankful that you reached out to me and you wanted to do this. It truly touched my heart when I looked and boom, there was someone from my past who I completely and totally remembered as just, you were just, to me, the coolest kid. Like, you just didn't seem to care. You were like, this is me, like it or not, I'm Jazz. And I still remember asking you, is your dad a musician? And you were like, why would you say that? I'm like, dude, your first name is Jazz. Like, that's a heavy duty name to have to take around. Like, and you were just like so amazed by the fact that I went there. Because did people at that age not ask you about your name, or was that a common event?
Yeah, never. They'd usually ask, like, is that a real name? Like, how is that even on the record? You know, kind of deal. But yeah, no, and you got it on the money, man. You know, my dad was what you call a hippie. You know,
Yeah, without a doubt.
40s. You know, so he definitely lived it up in the 60s, and and he's a musician all his life, man.
And I just picked it up from that. I've always had that insight to people, and I've always realized that if you want someone to take an interest in you, it's real simple. You have to take an interest in them. And when you can hit it right out of the park on the first question, it's almost like they're hooked. They're like, oh my gosh, how did this guy know that? He's never met me before, and I doubt he's ever even had a Jazz.
Right.
And yet he knew. And you were just like, all right, this guy's onto something. I don't know what it is, but I'm paying attention. And I don't know why. I just remember these things. Like, little things are not little to me. They become these like stamps in life, or like the playhead on a record or an audio recording, and it's like, boom, it's permanently fused in my brain. And that was a really long time ago, you know. And this is a student of mine from South Miami Middle School, I believe, circa 2003. And you know, for me to remember that says a lot. I can't believe that I do, but talking to you, it just jars those old memories. And
100%.
I just had to bring that up. So, of course, first and foremost, thank you so much for coming on and telling my students about your life experiences and where you are. So let's just dive in. So it starts off with, let's take a few minutes to briefly introduce yourself. Please include when you left South Miami Middle School, where you went to high school, college, post-college, and of course, what you're currently doing.
Well, I left South Miami Middle School in about 2003. And then I went to South Miami High School, home of the Cobras.
Yeah.
I was there for the Magnet Chorus program. And then my family relocated to Central Florida. Apopka is about 20 minutes out of Orlando. If you're from South Florida, you're never going to hear about Apopka.
No.
Out here.
Wait. Hold on. Aren't they really good at football?
Absolutely. That's
so you can hear about them.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Thank the football team at Apopka High School for making them, putting them on the map.
That's the only reason.
But there's a great diner. If I had the name, oh man, but that's the place to go to in Apopka.
I'm sure there's only one, so you can't.
There's one. Yeah, there's only one good one. And, but yeah, so coming from Miami, to a place called Apopka, yeah, man, it was definitely a culture shock.
I could only imagine. And
you're from South Florida, you when you greet a girl, or so you give them a kiss on the cheek, hi, nice to meet you, and yeah, I almost got punched the first day here.
I can imagine. That's not how we do things here.
I was like, what are you doing? I'm sorry, I was trying to say hi.
Yeah, I'm from the land of the Cubans, and kissing is not considered bad. It's just a formal greeting, an informal greeting, excuse me, that we all do, and it's just accepted practice. Not here in Apopka. Gotcha.
Got it. Got it. Noted. So yeah, so then, but I am currently a communications technician for NASA's launch services program out here at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station.
I'm sorry. That would be the part branch of the government that puts people in outer space.
It is pretty dope, man.
How did that happen? Like, I'm so blown away by this. How did this happen? Please go through the maturation process of middle school jazz to NASA. Like,
Well, yeah, I would like to say that I went to MIT for a couple of years.
wait, that didn't happen?
Yeah, I met Tony Stark. R&D projects together. But now, man, it's I actually repeated my senior year out here in Apopka.
Really?
It was that bad. Yeah, school
Wow.
for me. It was.
So we went the other route, not the MIT route. We went let's repeat senior year because
100%.
we weren't
Yeah,
doing so
it was
well.
that much fun, right? Yeah.
Oh.
So it was either drop out or repeat my senior year.
Wow.
It's funny. This isn't like oh wow, if I failed my senior year, this was gonna happen. No. But it just so happened I did meet my wife that year.
Oh, that's incredible.
In high school. Yeah. So look at that. But yeah,
so in a lot of ways it was worth it.
It was. And
now,
and I got my diploma. I got it done right.
So for you, let's spend a little time on that. For you as a 18-year-old kid, 17, 18-year-old kid, how did you feel about that? How did it make you feel that here you are having to repeat the grade? Maybe it was a little easier for you because it's Apopka, and let's face it, you didn't know anybody. You just moved there. Whereas it wasn't Miami. So would it have been a little bit easier of an undertaking and not as much of, I hate to say it this way, but was it embarrassing for you? Or were you just like, this is what I have to do?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because I started my junior year out in Apopka.
Oh, okay.
And coming from Miami, let's put it this way, I just had too much fun. Okay.
Oh, I understand. I lived there for 6 years. It's easy to have a lot of fun there.
It is. And I got in trouble but it was definitely eye-opening in the sense of I thought I was good. And then I get a letter in the mail during the summertime for my next year's schedule. I was like, no way it actually happened. And so it's just reality hit. So it was either go back to school, finish it off right,
or drop out,
or just drop out.
Yeah.
And I was left in that rut pretty much all summer. It was a really bad summer. I knew I wasn't going to walk. I thought maybe I could do summer school and I'll be good. I'll get my diploma, whatever. I'm not going to go on stage, just whatever. But when I got my schedule for next year, this is definitely real deal.
How were your parents? How were they? Were they like, this is up to you, you make the decision? Or they're like, come hell or high water, son, you're going to get this diploma?
No, they were definitely disappointed, which I'd rather them get really upset than disappointed. No one wants to get, be disappointed at.
Yeah. Disappointed's the worst. Disappointment. You can't get over disappointment. Angry. Yeah. You won't be angry anymore. Disappointment.
And I've always been in honor classes and gifted. And it's like, I could do it,
by far, you were not a dummy. You just didn't put in the effort. That's the difference.
Exactly. I just had too many distractions, and if I can go back and definitely prioritize, things will be a lot different. I love where I'm at now.
But that's what I was going to say.
But it's so many hurdles.
If you change the dynamic and the timeline, what's the thing from Back to the Future where Doc is talking about it, where you like change one thing in the time at space-time continuum, and then it changes everything else. But would you be where you are now? Probably not. And where you are now is a great place. Where you were was not. But look at what you did. So if you go back and change it, maybe you're not here. Maybe you're doing something else. Maybe you're not at NASA. I mean, that's just how I look at it. You had to go over all of those hills, all of those walls, all of those challenges, and you're living the dream job. You're working for NASA. I mean, that's incredible. That's unbelievable.
It's awesome, man. It's awesome. It's and so yeah, I couldn't do it. I couldn't go back in time and change anything. It was definitely
meant to be.
It's definitely meant to be.
You know, and you had some bumps in the road, but what I love about the story, Jazz, is you didn't let it beat you. You didn't go, well, you know what? I'm just not a smart person, or I'm not a good person, or I'm not a good student. You were like, nah, the heck with that. I'm going to make my own path and I'm going to do it and I'm going to get there. Maybe it's not going to be immediate like some other people, and maybe it's going to take me longer than other people, but I'm going to put my nose to the grindstone and I'm going to get there. And you did. And that's what's so amazing.
Right. Yeah.
So, along with this, how did you get inspired to be a communications technician? Because that's a heavy duty thing right there. That's not just like, okay, whatever. Like that took some work.
Yeah. It's, it's funny because when I graduated high school, I went to community college. I wanted to be a sound engineer, right?
Okay.
It would fit the name,
Yeah.
jazz.
Jazz. Yeah.
Yeah.
A better job is
Yeah.
not meant for jazz than
Right,
a
right.
an
DJ jazz.
engineer in music. No way. Yeah.
Be awesome. And when I went to the school, um, then again, here we go again. It was too soon, right? I didn't do an essay for English, and I thought I was gonna be okay, And the instructor looked at me, the professor. He's like, you didn't complete this assignment. This is a huge part of the grade. You
right.
failed.
Yeah. I can't pass you.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. I guess this is it. All right, you know what? I'm out. So just so happened, my buddy, he had just left boot camp. He went into the Marines, and we went to high school with him. And he came back. He's like, "What you up to, man?" I'm like, "Oh, working at Dollar Tree, do my thing, And
Yeah.
as a not 20, 19, 20-year-old, and he's like, "Man, you should go to the Air Force, man. It's super cake, super awesome. They have the best stuff, and you'd be a great fit for it, man." And I went to a recruiter. They were going to take too long for me to process. And at this point, I'm pumped because he just came back. He's got money in his pocket. He's doing things. He's doing, he's serving his country. And I, I thought that was what I got to do, man. So I signed up for the U.S. Army, man. They signed me
Wow.
quick, and I went in as a radio operator, doing
Nice.
communications.
Nice. So
And
you're already getting some skill right there.
yeah, and it was just one of those things. I wanted to go in and kick down some doors. My brother, who was previously in the military, that's why we actually moved to Apopka. He
Okay.
had got out from the military. He's like, we're getting out for Miami. Just, we're going to be moving here and start fresh. And so he said, you know what, man, why don't you go for this kind of job? So when you get out, you have some good background knowledge.
Right. That's what I tell the kids all the time. When you go into the military service, when you leave, you already have a stacked resume because they train you like nothing else and you know how to do things. And when people see military background and whatever it is, in this case, telecommunications, they're like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing.
Oh, 100%, man. Especially doing, you're doing it, overseas and in garrison. So I got my hands on this kind of equipment and troubleshooting and just getting things to work. I was like, holy crap, man, I'm good at this. Like it just struck me like a lightning bolt, man. Like,
Yeah, you found your calling.
I was like, I love this, and it was grueling and it was challenging. But I was like, yeah, man, that's what really hit my spark for what I'm doing now.
Nice.
I just want to continue that path, be the best at that.
That's awesome. So, was there a specific person that made that light bulb go off that said, I want to be this communications person? Was there someone like a teacher or even a coworker? Was there someone that really pushed you into that, like that helped you along that path?
Yeah. I had a Sergeant Gilbreth, right? So I went in as a brand new private, and this guy just wanted to push you to, and I know it's kind of cliche, be the best you can be, right? But he just, we're in a group of about 6 or 7 technicians in our shop, and we supported an artillery unit. So we had all the guys in the tanks and things like that. So we were there making sure all the comms were good, right? Everyone could talk. We're good to go. But every technician in that shop had a specific job when it came to comms. So I was the radio guy and the antenna guy. We had a guy that did automations for the computers. We had a guy that did specifically stuff for the satellites, but he believed in cross training, right?
Yes. So you had if God forbid something happened to somebody else, you could do their job.
100%. And I just saw the way that everyone would come up to him all the time for answers. And I wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be the guy that they came up to and said, "Hey, Rivera, we have an issue, man. Or we got to go on a mission or something like that." And I want to be that guy that they could rely on, that everyone's gonna be able to talk. We're not gonna be left in the dark. Let's make this happen.
Yeah.
You know? And he was just that kind of guy to really teach you and push you and challenge you. You know, I was at it was a JRTC. This is in Fort Polk, Louisiana. This is one of the last arenas before you go out to deploy. All right.
Right.
And
Like your last training
oh yeah, like
mission
full
or
blown giant scale. Think of a giant war game, right?
okay.
And so these
As
guys,
real as it could possibly be without being real.
right, without bleeding, you know, it's
Right,
like
without actually getting hurt. Right. Okay.
right, you know. So we'd have these huge simulations, and the guys that are stationed out at Fort Post, the guys that are always there 24/7, they play the op for the opposition forces. It's a giant game of laser tag. It is awesome, right?
Yeah.
So we are designed to lose so that we can learn
Right.
from our mistakes and things.
Wait, didn't
And
they
so,
do that on when they redid Star Trek and Captain Kirk fixed the machine so he would win because he figured out that they were gonna you remember that? That he was he found out that the simulation was like you said, you can't win. So he fixed it so he could, and everyone was like, "Wait, how did you do that? You're not supposed to do it." And then he finally said, "Well, I fixed the machine." That's so funny. I don't know why I remember that, but sorry.
you know, it's all good. That's the thing. Captain Kirk, you know, I'm a Star Wars guy. You know, so when
Oh,
it comes down to Star Trek, I know of it. I
yeah.
kind of
Hey,
follow.
I'm Star Wars as well. I mean, I still remember in 1977, my dad making us wait online at the Stanley Warner Theater just so we could watch this 70 millimeter film with this brand new thing called Dolby Surround Sound, and it blew my mind watching the first episode of Star Wars, which we all know was Episode 4. But I was like 7 years old, going, "This is the greatest movie I've ever seen in all of my 7 years on this planet."
And it still holds up, which is
Oh,
so
does
great.
it ever? Without a doubt.
It still holds up. I love it. I love it. But it's a huge simulated game. You know, Captain Kirk comes in, he saves the day.
Yeah, exactly. Dun,
but,
dun,
but
dun.
and Sergeant Gilbreth, he's like, "Hey Rivera, I need you to go out with you know, the higher ups to go on this mission." And I was like, "You gotta be kidding me, man! Like I'm pretty new, you know, and I'm supposed to be in charge of their comms, right?" And so
Right.
we get in this helicopter. Before we even get on there, this higher up guy, he's a colonel. He grabs me by the vest and he starts reciting the Ranger Creed. And I'm just like, I'm a young guy, man. I'm like, at this point, I'm 21 years old,
Oh, wow.
and he's just shouting this creed in my face, and he's just pumping me up, right? So anyway, we get in the chopper, we hover over ground, we get to where we got to land. The chopper lands in this open field, right? We jump out, we're in the prone on our stomachs. The chopper flies out, and awesome. It felt like a movie, man. And this guy
Wow.
looks at me, he's like, "Rivera comms." I'm like, oh, yeah, that thing.
I got to
Okay,
do my job.
yeah,
Oh,
I got to do
sorry
my
about
job.
that.
Right?
My
So
bad.
yeah, I start going through my big rucksack. I finally get the soda. We call it a soda can satellite, and I'm assembling this thing real quick, and I have no idea where to point it at. Right, we got to point it. You know, it was like I want to say it was like southeast or something. So I look at the moon. Okay, cool. It's got to be this way.
Yeah, I'm trying to find direction at night. Exactly.
And I
No
got it locked,
compass,
man.
whatever. There's the
On the
moon. I can
whim.
figure it out.
On the whim, I get it locked. I do a comms check, pass it over to the colonel. It's good to go. And that was like my epic moment of just like, oh my gosh, like I could do this.
Yeah,
You know,
got
like
this done.
and I would have been hesitant the entire time, man, but he knew I can do it. And
Wow.
I'll always thank him for that, you know.
That's awesome. Now, I was just thinking that since you left South Miami in 2003, my last guest that I interviewed, he's currently a police officer here in Boca Raton. He said that 9/11 was an unbelievable influence for him as well to go into the military and to be a police officer. Did 9/11 have a profound effect on you personally? Because you were definitely older than this particular person, but I
I,
was wondering if that had something to do with this journey.
I was in your class.
That's what
I was
that's
in
what
your
I was.
class when that happened, man.
Were
And
you actually? That's what I was wondering. Were you actually in the room when I turned on the TV?
yeah,
You were one of. You see,
yeah.
I totally messed up. This year being the 20th anniversary, I screwed up. I really should have had all of you guys on a podcast to tell the story because I actually spoke to another former student at South Miami, and she was in the room as well. And then there was another one that I spoke to years ago. She sent me pictures from the new Freedom Tower.
Hmm.
And I was like, wait, weren't you in my class the moment it happened? And she's like, how do you even remember that? And I'm like, I have no idea. But I that was a very pivotal moment for me as a person. Forget as a teacher. Like I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I was supposed to show it to you, not show it to you. I didn't get an email. There was no announcement. My wife actually called me and told me what had happened, but she thought the way they were explaining it was a Cessna hit the plane. The Cessna plane hit the Twin Towers. And I'm like, you're not allowed to fly there. Like I grew up
Yeah.
in New Jersey and that's a no fly zone. And then I was like, should I turn it on? Should I not turn it on? So if you could go into that a little bit in depth to take us back to September of 2001, September 11th, and tell us what was your reaction to the way I handled it and how did it affect you?
When that TV clicked on at first, we all thought it was just a horrific accident, because the second plane hadn't hit yet. I
Right.
don't think. I'm pretty sure we were
No,
just
no, you're right. It was in between plane one and plane two. That's
Mhm.
exactly right. You were 100% correct.
And I just remember your face, man. And we're in a classroom full of we're sixth grade,
Yeah.
and you had this stern face of just like, holy crap, this is really happening.
And for
Uh,
me, it was tough because I had so many friends and family who lived in the area, worked in New York City. Not that I knew people that worked at the Twin Towers itself, but I knew so many people who lived and worked in the near proximity. So my mind is racing all over the place with the safety of these people I've known my whole life. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And then I'm trying to keep it together, but obviously, as you stated, didn't do such a good job of it.
no,
But
you
this,
no, you held it stern, man. I remember you held your composure really well, and we're trying to figure this out, what's going on, and you really put us at ease, you know.
wow, thank you. I appreciate
Uh,
it. I'm glad. I can't believe you remember that. That's amazing because I don't remember it, but I'm glad you do. Thank you.
no, and yeah, man, no, and even the days following, afterwards, once we actually found out what was going on, what it was, you were that, other than parents, you were that one form of leadership to really say, we actually have an open discussion about it, you know. Um,
I can't believe you remember this because every 9/11, I tell this story to the students in my current class. So I'm really glad that you're saying it because what I actually did was I stopped teaching for about 2 weeks.
mhm,
And basically, I told you guys, go home, get newspapers. And you all brought in the newspaper the next day, and we started making posters. And recently, I found a picture of me in that room, and you can
wow,
see a couple of those posters hanging up on the wall. And you
wow,
guys got to express yourselves, and you guys got to put it out there because I said, you know what? These are people and they have feelings and no one's asking them about their feelings. Let's put it down on paper. Let's get it out because a lot of you either knew somebody who was there or who lived there. So many of the kids had a connection. And I was like, we need to help these kids because this was basically your Kennedy assassination or your what was the Oklahoma City bombing,
yeah,
things like that. And it just happens. That just is so rare that it happens. And I was like, they need to express themselves. And I don't know why I did it. I don't understand it. All I know is I needed to do it and I needed to be there for the kids because how was I supposed to move forward if I didn't let them express themselves? And I'm just so blown away that you remember it so vividly because you're in sixth grade. What were you like 11 years old?
yeah.
It's amazing. And I don't know why I did it. I don't know what came over me. Like I said earlier, I've discussed it with other students that were in your class at that time. And they too said the same thing. And I'm like, I don't have an answer. I just instinctually, inherently knew this was the right thing to do for these kids. And if it was wrong, it was wrong. If it was right, well, thank goodness. And I just am so glad that you remember it the way I tell the story. So you can basically back me up that I'm not
Yeah,
just making this
no,
up. So I appreciate that very much.
no, man. It was, yeah, no, you were a, yeah, very important figure, man. And yeah, it's funny. 10 years afterwards, I'm actually overseas in Afghanistan. You know,
Wow. Oh my gosh.
so it left a mark, man. I was definitely I was already 1A in a rut, and at a time of when I finally decided to go and join the military. Um, but I always felt like I had that calling, and especially, meeting the locals out there and seeing what was transpired over those 10 years,
Oh yeah, that must have been insane.
and you build connections, and I've had my own interpreter, um and so I would, with my job, I wasn't just posted up at one spot at all times.
Yeah, you were all over the place. I can
Yeah, I
imagine.
was all over. I was going from, I'd be in a really nice area, and then I'd have to go out to in the middle of nowhere, in a farm area for a week or two to maintain their comms, or replenish certain equipment.
Yeah, you
Um,
went whenever you were needed, and it wasn't always a great safe
it
place.
very safe place, and but it's crazy how it was definitely an experience meeting the locals out there, because they're just like regular people like you and I, and
Yeah.
there's just good and bad people.
Yeah, I say that all the time. The good and bad have no color, no race, no creed, no gender. They're good and bad in everyone, and that's just the way it is. Hopefully, we luck out and we run into more good people than bad people, but we can recognize when someone's bad and go, "Yeah, I don't want to be a part of that." But that's
Yeah,
interesting that you say that because you went on the other side of the world and you figured that out.
yeah. I tell you, man, the nice guys out there, beautiful, man. You see every star out there.
Yeah. Well, because they
That
don't have the light pollution that we have.
exactly. That was, and that's what kept me grounded. You know,
Wow.
that's and that jumps back to where I'm at now. I've always been an avid space enthusiast.
So was this space idea something always in the back of your head, or was this something that just one day the seed was planted and it just grew organically from there?
Um, it's funny because I love what I do, and this is what I don't know if this what landed me the job in my interview, right? Because before this, I was working at AT&T as a wire technician. Um, working on the outside plant, doing installs, repairs. So I was
Right,
climbing
right,
up
right.
and down
Yeah.
poles and all that fun
Buddy of
stuff.
mine did that for 25 years with Verizon in New York City. He was an
Nice,
engineer. Same thing.
right?
Yeah.
Man, and I loved it. And I'm meeting somebody new every day, right?
Right.
I'm in their
Right.
house. It's very intimate. It's in a
Right.
sense of
It's not the
different all
same
walks of
day
life.
in, day out drudgery. It's
Oh,
always different.
it was I loved it. I had so much fun, right? But I was great at what I did, and I pushed myself to always be that guy that smoke account. I want to be a lead technician.
Right.
Just doing my thing. And when I had interviewed for NASA, it was actually for 3 years. I,
3 years?
tried, yeah, yeah.
Oh my God.
The first time it was a no. Second time, again, it was a no. Sorry, man. Like I would knock out these interviews over the phone, ace them, get invited over, ace it again, but they'd only be getting one guy at a time, right?
Right.
And meeting a lot of these guys, a lot of these gentlemen, they're older. They've been at the same location working at this area for 25 years.
Wow. Wow.
So here I am,
Some heavy duty competition and heavy hitters.
this young guy coming in with, compared to them, little to no experience in that
Right.
in that aspect of
Right.
the comms world,
Right. 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 You're a great person, but your experience is very limited, and we need
Right.
somebody with more.
Right. And these guys, man, I'm learning something new every day with these guys. But it's so when I told them, they had asked me, why would you want to come over? And I said, I love what I do. I just want to do it in an industry that I'm passionate about.
Ah, nice.
And space and exploration, like I said, big sci-fi comic guy, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
just
Right. Right.
I was just able to get it, finally the third time around.
So just to dive in a little bit, because let's be perfectly honest, I'm not even quite sure what exactly it is you do. So could you just give us a rundown of what it is you do at work? If I mean it's NASA, I don't know if you're limited on what you can tell us, but I don't know how secretive it is. But like, what are you actually in charge of and doing? So when you say you're in charge of comms, which is communications,
Mhm.
what is your scope of your job? Like, what are you doing?
So let's say that proper industries, right? Let's say you build a satellite and you want to send it out to space.
Okay.
How do you do that? right?
I have no idea. I
What
call
the
you.
Right, right. So part of the launch services program, it was actually established by NASA in 1998. What they do is they incentivize commercialism to go ahead and be able to launch out what you want to launch. NASA kind of got tired of answering the calls, essentially. They say, you know what, we're going to build this program for you guys. And so they're literally the common thread between the company that wants to send something out to space and the launch vehicle, which will be
That
the
can
rocket,
do it. Right.
and how to do it. So they do
So
everything
you're the
from
conduit, basically.
right. We're the broker. We're that common thread. What they're going
Yes.
to do is they're going to say, okay, what do you want to send? Where are you going to send it to? This is what you're going to need. Where you're going to need it. Where you'll need to send it from.
Hmm.
Um,
So
you know,
meaning like the launch destination.
oh yeah. So they're dealing with everything from your component, your satellite or robot that you want to send to space, and what kind of capsule you're going to need, what kind of rocket you'll need to actually get it to that destination.
So it's all logistics.
Right, right. So my side, we come in about T-3 months before launch. We just
Oh
make
wow.
sure that all the comms at the hangar are up to date. Everything there you're gonna need to talk for this launch is set. Once that rocket goes up, I'm
Oh
done.
wow. So
you
as soon
know,
as it's like 3, 2, 1 liftoff, you're like later.
yeah, yeah. So we're just making sure that
Wow.
your company, when they come over to go ahead and see their launch and they're running all their tests and stuff, that everything's working properly.
Wow. Okay. That's so
Um,
cool. Yeah, I just wanted a little bit deeper explanation because again, I'm confused, and if I'm confused, I'm sure my listeners are too, and nobody better to ask than the person that's actually doing it. That's
don't worry, I've only been there for 2 weeks, so it's okay.
Hey, you know what? That's perfectly fine. It's 2 more weeks than I've ever worked for
Oh
NASA,
man.
so I can't tell you anything else. So, since you've had such an interesting life and you've, bounced around from difficulties to positives, so if you could turn back time and tell your 7th, 8th grade self some advice, what would you tell them to either set your mind at ease, or what would you say? What would you say to Jazz?
Family's everything, guys. And you know what, when I had my first daughter, I was still in the military, and I just got back from Afghanistan. My wife and I were settled in, and she was expecting, and I said, you know what, if it's a girl, I'm gonna get out of the military, and if it's a boy, I'm gonna stay in.
Oh, wow.
4 girls later, it was gonna be it was fate for me to get out.
So basically, how, since you were honest enough and open enough to tell us about your stumblings, what would you say to yourself about the just mistakes in general? What would you say to Jazz about making mistakes?
It's okay to make mistakes, um, as long as you learn from them, right? So if you're going ahead and you're making the same mistakes over and over again, no matter how many times you're trying to change your approach, I mean, you just
I
have to
always I
go ahead.
always tell the kids, you take a baseball player who, let's say they break into the major leagues at 20 or 21 years old. The first time they get up in front of, I don't know, let's go with 40,000 people. I mean, not at Marlin Stadium because no one goes to watch that. But anyway, you see that he gets up. Chances are he's not going to hit a home run, even though he's probably played thousands of baseball games. They're not a failure. It's not that it doesn't happen. It just rarely ever does. And I tell that to the students all the time. We learn more from our mistakes than we do from our successes. The success is the high and then it goes away. The failure is the low. And now, how do we overcome it? How do we not make it again? How do we learn from what we've done? So there's no such thing as a bad mistake as long as you can learn from it and grow from it.
Yeah.
So we all make mistakes in life, and that's where I think we really learn. But if you never made a mistake, I don't really think that you've put yourself out there. I don't think that you've tried something new or different. You just follow the path of what you've been good at. What is it? If you do what you always did, you'll get what you always got. So
Wow.
if
Yeah.
you if you do that, you're never going to learn and you're never going to experience anything. And as long as you realize, hey, I learned something from that, it's not a mistake. It's just a learning opportunity. I say that to my students all the time. Like recently, I've told them, stop saying studying, change the vernacular. Why don't you say I need to practice? Because all of you play sports and all you're like, oh, I practice after school. And you hate that. But if you change studying to practice, maybe the vernacular, the word change would be enough for you to go, okay, I need to practice my social studies or my math. And it's not such an arduous task and it's not so difficult for you. And just by changing those little things, just the way we think, noticing that it's irritating, noticing that it's an issue is half the battle. And then the change, I think, becomes a little bit easier. Recognizing you have a problem is 50% of the cure, I believe.
And I agree. And I want to add, I would definitely say that to keep positive people around you at all times.
Oh, without a doubt. That's number one. You're around negative people, you're just going to turn into one of them.
Oh, absolutely. Surround yourselves with others, who want to succeed and who want to lift you up. That's my biggest takeaway. Growing up, I always had friends who I still talk to that I've known since middle school, on the regular. I don't know if you remember Reiko.
Oh, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. I thought that dude was going to become a rock star. He was an amazing guitar player back in middle
Man.
school.
He is, man. He's been doing great things in the music industry still.
That's awesome.
He was actually out my way in the Orlando area about 2 weeks ago. And he calls me up at the blue. It's one of those friends where you don't talk to for years.
But it doesn't matter.
And it doesn't matter, man. You just boom, right?
We all have one of those, and I love those friends where it's like, yeah, we haven't spoken in a while, but it's not like it matters.
He's hilarious. And he goes, hey, man, I know you're a busy guy. I know you got a wife, the kids, but I'm in town for today. He was doing some charity work out here. And I was like, oh, bro, for sure.
I'm coming.
So we linked up for some dinner and stuff, man. I had a great time catching up.
That's awesome.
But it's just one of those friends, man, that he always was there to kind of push you up and say, hey, man, you can do this. You got this.
Yeah. He was always such a great kid. And I remember like he reminded me of what's his name? La Bamba. Lou Diamond Phillips played him in the movie. Richie Valens. He would walk around with his guitar all the time. He always had it. And I'll never forget one day he's like, Mr. Proper, would you mind if I came in the morning and played my guitar in your classroom because nobody else will? I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And he was like, really? I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, do you suck? Like, how bad are you? Are my eardrums going to fall out? He's like, no, man, I'm pretty good. I was like, okay. And I remember, and he came, and he was just so amazed that I said yes, because he must have asked every other teacher at the school, and they said no. And I was just like, well, that's cool. Whatever. Entertain me. Do your thing. That's amazing that you're still friends. And it's funny. The more I do these podcasts, the more, even though that most of you have zero connection with each other, the more I do them, the same things keep happening. The kids keep saying, well, adults now keep saying the same thing. You need to surround yourself with positivity, and hard work pays off. And it just becomes the theme of this. It's the maturation of these things, and everyone is just saying the same thing, but it's not provoked. It's just, organically happening. And it's amazing to me that you too are saying it as well. As soon as some of my students were like, my grades were in the toilet, and all of a sudden I changed all my friends and now I'm doing great. And I'm at the University of Florida, or like you said, I do have a kid who did go to MIT and he played basketball there. And, he's like, well, I got my nose to the grindstone, and boom. And it's like, well, this is what the podcast is about. Letting these, young bucks understand that you need to do the work or it's not going to pay off. It doesn't matter how smart you are if you're not going to put it together. And I'm just so thankful that, again, you just unprovoked said it. And I had to say something because I've heard it, and it's not me, it's you. The maturity, you realize, you grow up, and like we said earlier, you don't want to be living in your parents' proverbial basement, sleeping on their couch for the rest of your life. You want to have your own family, your own life, and you made it, and you're doing it, and that in itself is what's so amazing. So, going along with that theme, what was the most challenging experience that Jazz had, and how did you overcome that challenge? And lastly, what did it do to make you a better person?
Something more recent comes to mind, and it was actually trying to get this current job now, where I'm at. Being told no, it doesn't feel good.
Not at all.
So there was a time you get kind of upset, and you're just like, I don't even want to look at the moon, man. I was like, yeah, I don't even want to look at that moon.
You're just down on yourself.
Yeah, just down, and you get yourself in this rut, and especially after the second time where I got the call saying I didn't get the job. I was like, you know what, I'm done. I'm not going to pursue it anymore. It is what it is. And if it wasn't for my wife was the one that was like, honey, you want this, you got this. like, okay, I appreciate it. You're trying to,
I
console me.
love you, dear, and I know you're just trying to pump me up, but reality is telling me something else.
Right, right. But all props to her, man. She was the one that actually texted me. I was at work, and she was like, "Hey, the opening just popped up again."
Oh boy.
I was like, "Oh, bet. All right, cool." So,
Right,
so
right. I gave up
all
on
of a
this
sudden,
until now.
yeah, right. And so I applied again, man. And they that third time around, I didn't really have to interview at that point. They kind of already knew me, what I was about, and they were like, "You know what? We want you. We've been wanting you. You got it." And I was like,
And
"Yes."
isn't that a wonderful feeling when people finally tell you we've wanted you and you got it?
Yeah, and it really pumped me up. The first time around, it had pumped me up, man. I was like, I got this close. Like I was already on site. I'm looking at everything here. When they invited me over, I'm
Wow.
getting a tour, and I'm like,
Right, right. You're getting a tasty taste of
this
what
is
this is going to
awesome.
be like.
It's
Yeah.
and but it pumped me up. It gave me some motivation to say, hey, I got this far with them. I started applying to all sorts of places where I really didn't have any business kind of applying to.
But so
So
what?
things,
It
you
pumped
know,
you up. You were ready.
it
I'm
did.
going to take it on.
I tell you what, it was great practice. So there was one company I had applied for, and they had a few openings available, and I kind of applied for just some stuff. I wanted my foot in the space
Right,
industry
right,
some
right.
way somehow. This is where I wanted to be. Didn't care, and I get on site. And I'm thinking it's for the communications technician job, right? Something
Right.
similar to doing now, and they start interviewing. They start introducing the panel, and it's like this is Dan, our climber. I'm like, oh no, this is the antenna climber job, right?
Oh,
So
wow.
and
Not what you want to do.
me and heights, like, I'll go up and down some poles, 18
Yeah.
feet ain't too bad,
If
right?
you have to, quotes,
Yeah.
have
Oh,
to.
oh, no. So and they start asking me all these questions about climbing. I'm like, so I gave a good blue collar technician answer. They said, how do you feel about going up these heights? I said, listen, I'm not going to play it down at all. But you know what? I trust my equipment. I feel like with rigorous,
Yeah.
inspections, I'm going through all this stuff. They're like, "Oh wow, that's a good question." I'm like, "Please don't hire me. I don't
Yeah,
want to go."
exactly. I don't want this job. I don't want to climb up
But
poles
that's the
for a
funny
living.
thing. Like,
No.
I stood up and I shook their hand. I'm like, "Listen, I told them the truth. I was like, to be honest with you, I didn't know this is what I was
Yeah, I didn't
interviewing
realize
for
what
today."
this was for.
And
Right.
they started cracking up, and they're like,
That's
"Well,
funny.
thanks for being honest." And I was like, "No problem." And
Yeah. And I'm sure they greatly appreciated that,
they did. They did.
because they didn't want somebody taking a job that they didn't want. And you didn't realize it until the end when they're basically like offering you the job. And you're like, I don't want to climb
Yeah, I don't want
poles
to
for
climb
a
that tower.
living.
Yeah, I don't want to climb that huge antenna tower. Yeah, no way.
No, 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 no. I don't want to have to go home and explain to my wife that I accidentally applied for the wrong job and I got
Right, and I got it right.
it.
But that's what it kind of led me to go. So all these years of just no, no, and I had a great, I had a great job. I was happy where I was at, but you just can't get too complacent, right? If you feel like you deserve better, right? If you've been pushing yourself for all these years and you're just not, it's easy, especially as an adult or even as a young adult, to just get complacent with where you're at.
Oh, yeah.
And but when you feel like you have that extra something, you
Well,
know.
you have to have that never give up attitude, and it has to show up from time to time. I mean, it doesn't need to be there all the time, but
Right.
for the important things it needs to be. And I remember my mom saying that to me when I was in college when things weren't going the way I wanted them to, and she's like, "Just keep asking people. Don't give up. Somebody will say yes and give you what you want. You just have to learn how to say it correctly, and you learn how to talk to the right person." Now, just because something doesn't go well the first time doesn't mean you pack it in, you pick up your toys and you mope away. You basically, when you fail, you just learn something from that, or it didn't work out, and you pick yourself up and you move on and you try again. Just because something didn't work out the first time doesn't mean it won't work out in the future, which obviously it did for you. And that's amazing that you didn't give up. A lot of people would have been like, well, I just went on this interview and it didn't go well, or even maybe I embarrassed myself. Maybe I should not do this again. But no, you said, I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to do it better the next time. And then I'm going to do it better the next time. And guess what? I guess the old adage of 3 times is a charm worked out for Jazz pretty well.
It did. It did. This time it finally did.
And that's amazing. And that's what's so cool. And that's why I want people to come on. I don't care if you've had this job for 2 weeks, 2 years, 2 months. I want you to be at the apex of whatever it is you're doing so you can feel confident, like, yeah, this is what I wanted to do. And I grab the bull by the horns and I have it and it's mine. So, with all of this work that you're putting in to get to it and with your family and your life, when was there like jazz me time? And what do you do to decompress, to calm down, to just relax? Like, what is it that you
Watching series, movies, and video games. Anything media related. That's my thing, right?
it's
Um,
nice.
when I can fit in some gym time, absolutely. Going into the gym, hit it up a little bit.
That's always another good one. Yes, for sure.
But yeah, I put it this way: Game of Thrones. I don't know if they're allowed to even watch this show.
Probably not.
But just to put it into perspective, I've seen this. Like anytime a new season comes out for a show, I have a bad habit of having to rewatch the entire series.
To get caught back up again.
Yeah, I can't just go in cold, you know.
Right,
So
right, right. Yeah, sure.
yeah, so even like the Mandalorian that recently came,
Yes.
I had to rewatch the first season, although I've probably seen it like 3 times already.
Doesn't
But I have
matter.
to have that continuation. That's like
Right, right. You want to feel like you're just picking up where you left off, not like, hey, I don't remember that.
yeah. Oh, every key thing. Yeah, that's my zen.
Nice. Nice.
Definitely hopping on the Xbox.
When you were trying to figure out what Jazz wanted to do, was there like a challenging educational experience that came in your way that you just had to somehow figure out how to get through, get over, to move forward? And how did you overcome that? Like, what was the stumbling block, and how were you able to come to the conclusion of this is what I need to do to get through this?
A lot of the stumbling blocks I had, it just wasn't sitting down and focusing and realizing the importance of what we're doing, right? So we'd get these assignments. Hey, this is due at the end of the week, or just sitting down and knocking it out. It's building up these fundamentals that you're going to need for when you're older. So when you're at a job, hey, we need this report done, or we need this task completed. If you're not getting that kind of system ingrained in your head by the time you're already coming out of the school system and kind of working ahead on yourself, it's going to be tough. So I tell my kids, this is your job right now. This is all you have to do is just knock it out, pay attention, do your work, because this is technically your job.
Yeah.
you know
So
and
having like a good foundation
right,
of work ethic and work skills is going to really help you in the future.
it is. And my parents, like I said, again, my name is Jazz, so you already knew they're very easygoing, like,
Yes,
just,
mellow people.
and like, don't worry, man. He'd get on me. Don't get me wrong, but it was just one of those things, like, hey, it's your choice, this is what you want to do. And um at the end of the day, if I would have really sat down, and I probably wouldn't have to have gone, let's say, go to the military to go ahead and do what I had to do. You know, um, it's one of those things where you sit back and you reflect. But like what I'm doing right now is, if I would have gone to a 4-year college, I wouldn't have had to say, you know what, I want the same outcome of someone that's come out of the 4-year university. I just can't. It's too late for me. In my opinion, in my mind, it was. So the only way to make that happen was to go ahead and hit up my boy Uncle Sam and say, "Hey, can you take me in?"
Yeah, yeah.
you
I need
know,
to get this somehow, and you're
right?
my Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Oh, you're my only hope. And if I had to have sand in my crack for a year to make it happen,
You did.
I did.
Yeah.
And I've met some amazing people. I've grown. I've had some relationships over the years that, bonds that can't be broken. You know,
Yeah. You basically took the hard road, not the easy road. You
right.
didn't take the road well traveled. You basically, like Doc said in Back to the Future, roads where we're going, there are no roads.
There are no roads, Morty.
That's it. And you did it. And that's what to me is such a testament. And that's what's
Yeah.
so amazing about your story is that the, the path was your own. Like no one has taken a path like you. You just did your own thing, and yet you still managed to get to that finish line, and you did it. Did you do it the conventional way? Heck no, but you still got there. And that's what's so amazing. So if there something that that you learned about South Miami Middle School as a school after you left? Like when you went to high school and all of a sudden you were like, oh my God, I didn't realize I learned that in middle school.
Yeah, it was middle school is definitely the time where you're kind of identifying yourself in a sense. You're still in that sweet spot of like, okay, high school is where it's gonna get really hard. You just left elementary school not too long ago. And so when you get there, they're kind of setting you up for that kind of, before you had just one teacher in elementary school for that.
Right.
And now you're jumping around, running through halls, going to different teachers and whatnot. Um, it's that's that key, right? It's that sweet spot where, man, I'm taking this for granted. I should have listened because now I am lost in the sauce. Come ninth
Right.
grade.
Right. The
Um,
problem is you're living it. So it's hard to, you can't pull yourself back because you don't have that much life experience. You think you know everything and you don't know anything. And you don't realize it. So you go to high school and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I wasted my time, or I didn't utilize my time, or I didn't understand what I was supposed to do. And it really opened up this idea of, okay, that was epic. Let me try not to do that again.
yeah, no, it's definitely where it gets a little bit more stressful. You got to worry things about GPA. You
Yeah, I
get
try to tell that to the kids all the time. I wish they would start it in eighth grade so they got a tasty taste of what it was to have that number next to your name.
Yeah, and that number is what my number is a little too low, so I had to come back for another year.
Exactly.
But your expectations of you definitely start growing, and it took me years to figure that out.
It
And
does. It takes us all a bunch of years. Now, then once you got to high school, was there something that high school showed you that you didn't appreciate about middle school, but all of a sudden now you did? Like you're in high school and you're like, oh my God, I totally thought this was bogus. And now you're like, this was awesome.
yeah, I would definitely have to say the amount of distractions, because now you're a little bit more free, right?
Yes, exactly.
And so now you have some freedom to kind of say, you know what, I'm gonna stay up a little later and do this, or vice versa. It's Middle school was just so nice and safe, and in a sense of like everyone was just so cool, so nice.
But
And
now in high school, you're driving the bus and you're directing where the bus is going. And you're
yeah,
choosing, I want to take this class. I want to take that class. I don't want to take that class. I want to hang out with these people. I don't want to hang out with those people.
yep, yep, and that's where full circle just goes to being around those kind of people that are gonna lift you up.
Exactly. And I think the maturity factor and the life experience, I think that's when you really start to understand that is high school. Because of maturity, you're starting to realize, okay, first of all, it's all coming to an end kind of quickly. I have to decide what I'm going to do with my life, whether it's college, community college, the military, a job. What am I going to do? And that's when I think it all hits you, when all of a sudden the reality of life happens. And you said something interesting earlier about, community college, and that strikes a chord with me as well. I went to community college. It was like 13th grade for me, but I wasn't mature enough to go to a 4-year school. I would have failed out.
Right.
And it like you said, I feel so many connections with you because that was my driving force, that I wanted to get back on track and be like everybody else. Yeah, I wasn't going to go to Harvard, but I needed to go to a 4-year school because community college, I was living at my parents' house and I had a job and it was pretty easy. But
Right.
when I went to my friends' universities, I'm like, they're not even working. All they're doing is going to school a couple hours a week and then whatever. I can do that. But I needed the maturity to get there. So again, my path wasn't the traditional path either, but that's what community college is there for. Or
Right.
just see if college isn't even for you. If it's something you're not interested at all, but you got to give it a whirl and try. And that's what's so great about it.
Yeah, and it's okay, and that's the biggest thing. It's okay, right? So all the stress and all that stuff, and just knowing the end, it's all okay. It's gonna be okay. You
And
know,
that's a wonderful thing to say because when you're going through it, it sure doesn't feel like it's okay.
it does
I
not.
I, I remember when all my friends were like, "Oh, I'm going to this school and I'm going to that school," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to the local community college," and I don't even want to say that to people. It's like, "Oh yeah, not quite sure what I'm doing yet." But now I tell the kids all the time, and I said, "Look, I made it to what it was that I wanted to do. Was it easy? No. Was it the simple path? By far not. But I was able to do it because, like you said, persistence. I didn't give up. I didn't let people who came into my path who were trying to dissuade me. I told my students recently that I had a psychology teacher in high school who basically took all the seniors who had them 2 years in a row and was discussing what their plans were and what they should do. And I don't know if this guy was trying to, like, psych me out, or if he was actually trying to help me or do a psychological experiment on me. But he literally told me he didn't think that I should go to college. And I was like, are you kidding me? Really? I'm a senior about to graduate and you think this is a good time to tell me this? And to this day, I can't tell if he did it to try to motivate me or if he was just a jerk. So it wasn't like I'm like, oh, I'm going to show this guy. I was like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Next. And everybody's path, as I said in the intro, is different. And that's why I love these podcasts. So you can come on and talk about what Jazz did, how Jazz got to work at NASA. Like, is there a number? Do you know how many people actually work for NASA itself? Is that like, is that a number?
That's a great question, right? Like, it's, it's definitely a lot of different components under that umbrella. It's just one huge force of, you got the actual rocket scientists, you have all these engineers, you have all these huge bright minds, coming together and just being able to put something in space is
right. But
crazy.
you're working there, and you're one of them, and to self-deprecate and diminish is not that. You're there, you're doing it, you made it, you did it. And that is what is so incredible, that you didn't have an easy path, but you didn't give up. You found another direction. You went, life zigged, you zagged. Life zagged, you zigged. And you kept your eye on the prize. And thank God you found this incredible woman who is like, this is your dream, and I'm going to help you achieve it no matter what. And
right.
That's what it's all about, is finding that positivity in life through people to help you get to where you want to go. And if there are people out there that are like, oh, Jazz, this is the worst idea I've ever heard, you're like, snip, snip, cut you out of my life. Like, I don't need that negativity.
And I've heard people, and you hear that along the way. I've heard, like, come on, man, you're not gonna get that job, man. You get those, and even if
I just don't understand those naysayers. Like, why would someone say that to you? And it's like, this is my dream, and you're literally pooping on my dream. Like, why do I want to, to me, that's when I'm snip, snip, goodbye. Like, I don't need you in my life. You are a negative distraction that I don't want. Like,
right.
I mean, I'm not going to say I haven't thought that about people, but I wouldn't say it to someone's face. Like, I mean, that's when the next thing you see is a balled up fist coming at your eyeball. And I'm like, why would you dissuade someone when this is their dream? Like, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I'm not going to tell you, hey, Jazz, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
But yeah, well, you have to remember, with my background, working in this, I'd say, blue collar kind of thing.
Yeah, the field you worked in, that's true.
Yeah. These guys, and now, granted, I had some exchanging of words with them as well. Like, okay,
I'm sure. I'm sure.
And that's the you got to take the best of where you're at and leave the worst part of it. So like how you just took that motivation right there, you took that with you. All the other bad days you're just gonna leave behind.
Wow. That's awesome. That's a really awesome thing to say. And I think that comes with maturity, experience, and you just have to learn how to do that. You have to learn to put your bad things behind you and just move forward. But again, like you said earlier, you learn from these experiences. Nothing is a failure if you got something out of it. And if you can motivate yourself, and motivation comes in all different shapes and sizes. And sometimes it comes from someone or something that you never even expected, but you have to learn how to harness it to move forward, to say, okay, that didn't work out. It wasn't a mistake, but it just didn't work out the way I wanted. So let's move forward. That's incredible. I'm just so unbelievably proud of you, Jazz, and the fact that you just have this stick-to-itiveness and that you just didn't give up. You could have easily packed it in and said, you know what, I'm comfy here and I can just do this for the rest of my life. It'll provide enough for my family. We don't have to be ridiculously rich, and I don't have to work for NASA. That dream just isn't going to happen. And I'm just so proud of you that you didn't give up, that you just kept working for it and working for it. And then even more than that, that you found a person in your wife that believed in you enough to say, you may have given up, but I sure haven't. And you're going to do this. And we all need that in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%, man. Thank you so much.
Oh, please. No, I'm so glad you were able to tell me. And I'm just reiterating the truth, which is anybody who would hear that would say the same thing. And that's incredible. And on that note, I really appreciate you coming on and telling my current students about your journey from South Miami Middle School, my classroom, all the way to working for NASA. I mean, I'm just, no pun intended, but I literally have to say I'm over the moon. Dun. And it's incredible. And I really appreciate you coming on and telling your experiences and going through all the different phases and aspects of your life of how you got there.
No, thank you so much. And I just want to I just want to thank you for giving us this kind of platform, which is amazing. And that, your students are very lucky, that someone, wow, what is it? 2001, where we're at now. Like it's a long time, right? For someone to remember a teacher.
Yeah. It really is. I'm shocked that you do. But again, you were in my class on 9/11. So that's an experience that you'll have for the rest of your life.
You've been, and to a lot of people, so we thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, honestly, really.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on. And on behalf of the How I Got Here podcast, I really appreciate your time, your answers, your effort, and sharing your achievements, your highs, your lows, your in-betweens, because I know that there's a kid out there listening to this who's going to go, hey, if this kid can do it, I think I can do it too. And that's the reason why I wanted to do this whole thing in the first place. So thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to How I Got Here podcast with Mr. Proper. Music provided by Miss Mata. Thank you to Patty Fernandez for the introduction. Thank you to Seth Proper for logistics and behind-the-scenes production. Join us next time for another episode of How I Got Here and more stories of former students and their journey.